Hi, I'm Caleb Hargrove, 44, and the day my wife came back from her girls' trip to find a for sale sign in our yard? That was the day her whole double life exploded, and mine finally began. She slammed the front door like it owed her money and barked, "Caleb, what the hell is that sign doing in our yard?" I didn't even flinch. Didn't blink. Just sat there with a book in my lap, one I hadn't actually read in hours, watching her stare at the for sale sign still swinging in the wind. It wasn't just a piece of metal and wood. It was a verdict. A statement. A giant red and white billboard that said, "I'm not your fool anymore. You can't sell the house. You can't just do this." Her voice cracked. She was already shifting from shock to furious, like a faucet you couldn't turn off fast enough. I finally closed the book, looked her in the eye, and said it as calm as I've ever said anything. "I didn't do it alone. The court ordered it. As part of our divorce." The color drained from her face. Like her brain couldn't compute those words coming out of my mouth. Divorce? From me? The guy who paid every bill, who packed her bags for every trip, who believed every ridiculous bad cell service excuse? She thought I was stupid. Or maybe just too nice. Same difference in her eyes, I guess. Let me rewind. Because you need to understand how we got to the moment my wife's fake girls' trip life got dropkicked by a lawn sign. My name's Caleb. Ohio born and raised. I work for the Department of Transportation. I own 1,000 reflective vests and more steel-toed boots than dress shoes. I fix highways for a living, so you can trust me when I say I know how to spot cracks before something collapses. Except when it came to my marriage. Vanessa, my wife, she was 46. Worked in sales at a furniture store. One of those people who could convince you to buy a $900 coffee table you didn't need, and you'd thank her afterward. I used to think she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now I think she's just the best actress in Ohio. We'd been married 8 years. No kids together, but she had a daughter from her first marriage, Kayla. When I met her, Kayla was 16, rolling her eyes at everything that breathed. By the time this all went down, she was in college, off doing her own thing. To anyone watching, we looked solid. Weekend BBQs, frozen pizzas on Thursdays, laughing at dumb reality shows. But marriage isn't about the pictures people see. It's about the silences behind closed doors. The shifts. The moments when something feels off, and you ignore it because you want it to be nothing. It started with a girls' night. Then a girls' weekend. Then 3. Then vague stories, disappearing acts, and perfume that didn't belong to me. But I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I investigated. I hired someone. A private investigator. A guy named Mark. Quiet. Professional. No drama. He followed her. Collected evidence. Photos. Timestamps. A man. A hotel. Lies. So many lies. And the whole time she thought she was running the show, I was rebuilding my life behind the scenes. Lawyer. Financial separation. Divorce filings. Asset tracking. And eventually, the order to sell the house. She thought this house was her safety net. Her home base, to cheat from and come back to. She didn't realize it had become a trapdoor. So, when she pulled into the driveway that Sunday, fresh from whatever lie she'd wrapped herself in this time, and saw that sign, she thought she was walking back into a marriage. She was walking into a war zone. The second she saw the sign, her whole act cracked like cheap porcelain. I sat in the living room, letting her words ricochet off the walls like bullets that couldn't touch me. The old Caleb, me from a few months ago, would have been scrambling to explain, to fix it, to ask if maybe he did something wrong. But that version of me was long gone. The new me? I was calm. I was dangerous in a way she never expected. "You filed for divorce?" she said again, like if she said it enough, it might become less true. Her face twisted between disbelief and panic, like her brain was flipping through emotions trying to find one that might still work on me. "Papers were filed 2 weeks ago," I said, flipping open Mark's folder on the coffee table. I didn't push it toward her. I let it sit there like a trap. She stared at it like it might bite. "I don't understand, where is this coming from?" I raised an eyebrow. "From the hotel parking lot. The one off I-70. You know the one." Bright neon sign. You parked right under it 3 times last month. She went pale, her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. Mark, I said, tapping the folder. Private investigator. Real professional. Photos, video, timestamped. I've got enough here to make a scrapbook. She took a step back, bumped into the arm of the couch, and gripped it like it might hold her up. You followed me? Nope, I said. I hired someone to. Big difference. I didn't want to follow you. I wanted proof. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. Vanessa sank into the chair across from me like her legs had given up. And I just sat there, watching her. Watching her try to conjure up some story, some sob-scented excuse that might make the last 8 months vanish. Caleb, her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to. Spare me. I held up a hand. You don't get to run the victim script here. You didn't trip and fall into someone else's hotel bed. This wasn't one night, Vanessa. This was strategic. This was planned. You lied with the kind of confidence that only comes from practice. And that, I think, is what finally broke the silence inside her. Because she suddenly switched lanes fast. You were never there for me. She snapped, eyes flaring. Always working. Always tired. You stopped paying attention a long time ago. There it was. The justification. The ancient defense of cheaters everywhere. You made me do it. I actually laughed. I mean full, gut-deep, dry-throated laughed. I was working 60-hour weeks to keep a roof over your head. I said. The same roof you snuck out from under to play house with someone else. Then I stood up. Real slow. Picked up the folder. Walked over and laid it gently on the coffee table in front of her. You want to know why this house is for sale? I asked. Because you broke everything that made it home. I'm not staying in a place where the lies echo louder than the memories. She didn't speak. Just sat there blinking, tears welling up in her eyes, not from guilt, but fear. Because for the first time since this little game began, she wasn't in control. And I wasn't done. Credit cards? You're off all of them. Life insurance? Changed. Direct deposit? New account. The car? You'll be reimbursing me for every single payment I made on your joyride. Vanessa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her world was unraveling in real time. This wasn't a conversation. It was an execution of consequences. And I had every receipt ready to go. I'm not going to be your backup plan, I said, grabbing my coat. You don't get to blow up our life and expect me to pay for the shrapnel. And then I left her there. In the house she'd turned into a crime scene. Under the sign she never saw coming. The night after she found the sign, I didn't sleep in the house. I didn't even sleep. I drove. For hours. Past the edges of Columbus, through dead quiet backroads lit only by headlights and regret. No music. No GPS. Just me, white knuckles on the wheel, heart thudding like a damned construction crew was working overtime inside my chest. I wasn't running from anything. I was burning off the last fumes of restraint I had left. Because everything I hadn't said to Vanessa was screaming in my head now. Not the legal stuff, that was locked in. That was cold, clean, surgical. I was talking about the truth. The dirty, aching, humiliating truth. Like the way I used to wait up for her on those girls' weekends, pretending not to worry, telling myself real trust meant not checking the time. Or how I once drove to her job to surprise her with lunch and sat in the parking lot too nervous to go in, because a little voice whispered, "What if she's not working today like she said?" I drove away with the sandwiches still in the bag. That was the kind of man I'd been. Loyal. Faithful. Naive. But no more. That night, somewhere on a stretch of Route 62, I pulled over and finally let it all come up. Not tears. Not rage. Just the dead weight of acceptance. She cheated. And not just on me, but on who I was when I believed in her. She took my trust like a gift, and used it like a doormat. And here's where the story twists. Because when I came back the next morning, early, still foggy outside, I wasn't the same man who'd left. I walked into that house not as her husband, not as the guy who'd been betrayed, but as a man who was about to dismantle her second life piece by piece. I poured myself a coffee. Black. Sat down at the kitchen table. And opened my laptop. It was time to hit send. I had compiled everything. Every photo from Mark. Every date and time she said she was with the girls. Next to it, the real proof, her at a hotel, her kissing a man in a parking lot, her smile that wasn't mine anymore. It was meticulous. No anger. No rants. Just timestamps, facts, and visuals. I wrote one sentence at the top of the email. This is the truth. Do what you want with it. Then I send it. To her family. To mine. To our mutual friends. To a few coworkers. And then I posted a redacted version on Facebook, his face blurred, license plates covered. Caption simply. She had her story. Here's the other side. I didn't stick around to refresh likes or read comments. I closed the laptop and took a breath so deep I nearly choked. For the first time in months, the silence in that house felt peaceful. Not threatening. Not long after, my phone started vibrating like a slot machine. Her brother. We're sorry, Caleb. We didn't know. My sister. I'm proud of you. A buddy I'd stopped grabbing beers with months ago. Man, I should have had your back earlier. I didn't know the half of it. Even her best friend, the one she always claimed was part of those girls' trips, texted me. I wasn't on any of those weekends. She lied to you and to me. Vanessa, of course, blew up my phone too. 10 missed calls. Then the text started. How could you do this to me? This is slander. I'm calling my lawyer. I didn't answer. I just took screenshots. Because this wasn't a fight anymore. It was a reckoning. And I had already won the only war that mattered. The one for my own damn dignity. 3 days after I posted the truth, Vanessa showed up at my apartment. Not a call. Not a text. Just a knock. It was a hard, frantic knock, like someone trying to kick down history. I knew it was her before I even looked through the peephole. The rhythm was all guilt and desperation. I opened the door and there she was. Sunglasses on, hood up, like she was dodging paparazzi, which was wild considering she once posted 30 Instagram stories about a single brunch. She pushed past me without asking. I didn't stop her. I just crossed my arms and watched as she stood in my tiny, clean, undecorated living room, turning slowly like she expected it to look more pathetic. You really posted that? She asked, low and breathless. No. I forged a timeline, hired actors, and staged your affair like a Netflix drama. She flinched. People are calling me, she said. My aunt blocked me. My coworkers, Caleb, you humiliated me. I stayed quiet for a second. Let the echo of that word, humiliated, hang in the air like smoke. I didn't humiliate you, Vanessa. You did. I just stopped covering for you. She ripped the sunglasses off then, eyes red and raw. You could have just talked to me. We could have handled this privately. I stepped forward. You cheated on me publicly. Don't cry about me answering with the truth. She blinked, tears finally showing. I lost everything. I almost said, so did I? But it wouldn't have been true. I lost the illusion. She lost the control. Big difference. Do you still love me? She asked suddenly. Like she hadn't been face first in another man's hotel room 2 weeks ago. I looked at her. Really looked. For the first time, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw the woman I survived. I loved who I thought you were, I said. But that person died somewhere between the second fake girls trip and the third hotel room. She stepped forward again. Her voice softened. We were good together, Caleb. Maybe we lost our way, but you lost your way, I said, cutting her off. I was right where I said I'd be. At work. At home. At the life we built. You left. The tears turned to anger fast. She swung back into attack mode like it was muscle memory. You're not perfect either. You think you're some martyr? You were boring. You were checked out. Always tired, always distracted, never spontaneous. That's why I held up a hand. Stop, I said firm. I'm not interested in your reasons anymore. You could have left. You could have told me the truth. Instead, you built a life on lies and expected me to keep paying for the foundation. She stared at me, breathing hard, like she was gearing up for one last performance. Then, nothing. Just quiet. I walked over to the door and opened it. This isn't your home anymore. Vanessa didn't move. "You're not the man I married," she whispered. I nodded. "You're right," I said. "That man wouldn't have kicked you out. That man would have kept apologizing, wondering if he wasn't enough. That man died the night your lies did." She stepped outside without another word. I shut the door. Locked it. Then leaned back against it and let the silence wash over me. No rage. No heartbreak. Just clarity. This wasn't the end of something. This was the start of me. The morning of the final court hearing, I shaved extra close. Not for her. Not for the judge. For me. Because that was the day I was going to sit across from the woman who tried to rewrite our story and calmly watch a legal system undo the life she thought she still controlled. The courthouse was smaller than it looked in my nightmares. Beige walls. Buzzing lights. Waiting benches that made you feel like a kid outside the principal's office, if the principal was about to split your life in half. Ally, my lawyer, met me outside the courtroom. Clipboard in hand, calm as a heart surgeon. "You ready?" she asked. "Been ready since the sign went in the yard," I said. Inside, Vanessa sat on the other side of the room with her lawyer, a sleek, over-prepared woman in high heels who looked like she'd practiced her client's victim face in the mirror that morning. Vanessa was dressed down. Soft sweater, light makeup, hair in a loose ponytail. Innocent chic. Her whole outfit screamed, "Look how emotionally wounded I am." I didn't look at her. Not even once. Judge Ramirez entered. Mid-50s. Clean glasses? No nonsense. The kind of woman who's seen it all and is tired of people thinking crocodile tears are currency. Ally stood first. She didn't give a speech. She gave a summary. Concise. Cold. Photos. Dates. Financial records. The car. The house. The credit cards. The lies. She laid out the betrayal like a tax return, bullet-pointed, undeniable, boring in its precision. Because the truth doesn't need flair. It just needs proof. Then Vanessa's lawyer stood up. She leaned heavy into the long marriage, emotional neglect, and Vanessa's need for stability. She painted a picture of a woman abandoned, left lonely by a man obsessed with work. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Because Judge Ramirez? She wasn't buying any of it. After 40 minutes of legal gymnastics, the judge turned her eyes on Vanessa and said, "Mrs. Miller, infidelity may not negate division of assets in the state, but it does factor into support." There was a pause. The kind you only hear right before a verdict. "Request for alimony is denied." Vanessa blinked. Her lawyer shifted. "Mr. Hargrove," the judge continued, "you will retain your pension and retirement accounts. Mrs. Miller is responsible for reimbursing half of the car payments made during the last 3 years." I heard Ally exhale beside me, subtle but satisfied. Vanessa looked stunned. Not devastated. Stunned. Like she genuinely thought her tears could drown a courtroom. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just nodded once. Because justice doesn't need celebration. It just needs to land. When the hearing ended, Ally turned to me. "That went about as well as it could." "Yeah," I said, standing slowly. "That's the sound of a clean break." Vanessa didn't speak to me on the way out. She kept her eyes on the floor. Her high heels clicked like a slow metronome of regret. But I wasn't listening anymore. I stepped outside into the crisp Ohio morning, took a breath, and finally, felt the weight slide off my shoulders. No more pretending. No more explaining. No more covering for someone else's secrets. I was free. You ever wake up in a place so quiet, you think you've gone deaf? That was my first morning in the new apartment. No squeaky bathroom door she kept promising to WD-40. No curling iron sizzling on the counter. No perfume cloud in the hallway. No fake "Good morning, babe," layered in lies. Just me, black coffee, and the soft hum of a fridge that didn't know it wasn't holding anyone else's groceries anymore. The place was small. 1 bedroom, beige walls, carpet that had seen better decades. But I swear to God, I could breathe again. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was living inside a performance. People think starting over is some triumphant sprint into a new life. It's not. It's sitting on a second-hand couch at 2 a.m. eating cereal from a Tupperware lid because you haven't bought bowls yet. It's opening your closet and realizing half your clothes still smell like a house you no longer live in. It's checking your phone out of habit and realizing nobody's lying to you today. And yet it felt good. Because it was mine. I started going back to the gym. Nothing dramatic, just something to do with my evenings that didn't involve scrolling through old text threads like a ghost looking for closure. I started sleeping better. My back stopped hurting. I bought actual bowls. One Saturday morning, I drove out to the lake with an old buddy, Mike. We used to fish all the time before marriage turned weekends into furniture store visits and passive-aggressive brunches. He cracked a beer before noon and said, "You look different, man. Lighter." "I think I am," I said, watching the line disappear into the water. "You know the heaviest part of betrayal?" He looked over. "What?" "Pretending it didn't happen while it's eating you alive." He just nodded. Quiet. He'd been through his own storm years ago. Some nights I still thought about her. Not in a longing way. More like remembering a dream that used to make sense but now feels ridiculous. I'd hear a song we once danced to at a wedding and think, damn. That used to mean something. Now it was just noise with a history. Then, about a year after the divorce was finalized, something showed up in the mail. Plain envelope. No return address. The handwriting stopped me cold. Hers. I opened it on the steps outside my building. 6 handwritten pages. Sloppy, like she'd written it in a rush of emotion or guilt. She apologized. She begged. Said she still loved me. Said she was broken. Said she wanted to meet. Just talk. Just once. She wrote, "You were the only good thing I ever had, and I ruined it." I sat there reading it all. Slowly. Calmly. And when I finished, I tore it into pieces so small, not even regret could put it back together. Walked it straight to the dumpster, dumped it, and didn't look back. She lost the right to my story. To my peace. To my future. That letter wasn't for me. It was for her conscience. But my healing didn't need her permission anymore. 3 months later, I saw her at a gas station. It wasn't planned, wasn't dramatic, just a Thursday, 5:30 p.m., me filling up the truck after work, covered in highway dust, dead tired and humming to myself. I glanced up and there she was, 2 pumps over. Vanessa. Same face. Same hair. But smaller somehow. Like life had been peeling pieces off her, slowly, one consequence at a time. She saw me too. We locked eyes for a second. And in that moment, everything slowed down. Not because I missed her. But because I didn't. She looked like she was about to wave. Maybe even speak. But then her eyes dropped. Back to the pump. Back to the ground. Back to wherever she'd been living since the world stopped revolving around her. I just nodded once and turned away. I didn't owe her a smile. I didn't owe her silence either. But more than anything, I didn't owe her access. I paid, climbed back in the truck, and pulled away like I was leaving a fire I didn't start and didn't care to put out anymore. That's the moment I knew I was done. Not legally. Not technically. Emotionally. Free. I spent that weekend doing things that looked boring on paper but felt revolutionary. I reorganized the toolbox. Bought new sheets. Cleaned out my inbox. Donated a bunch of her old books I never touched. Hung a new coat rack by the door that didn't have room for her jacket anymore. Every little thing I changed in that apartment made it feel more like mine. Like each screw I drilled into the wall was anchoring me deeper into my own life. And yeah, I started smiling more. The guy who used to flinch every time his wife said, "I'll be back late," was now the guy who woke up on Sundays, hit the gym, grabbed pancakes at the diner, and didn't check his phone once. Mike noticed. "You dating yet?" he asked one morning. I shook my head. "Not rushing it." He grinned. "When you do, you better not bring another furniture saleswoman into the group. I still owe your ex $800 for a damn sectional that doesn't even recline." I laughed harder than I had in months. The kind of laugh that shakes stuff loose in your chest. Like maybe there's still some light left in you after all. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just destroy what you had. It resets your definition of love, loyalty, and self-worth. And when you finally dig yourself out of that wreckage, You realize that survival isn't just breathing. It's waking up and not hating the mirror. It's trusting your gut again. It's knowing the next chapter doesn't have to rhyme with the last. I wasn't healed yet. Not fully. But for the first time in a long time, I wanted to be. And that was more than I ever thought I'd have again. 1 year to the day after she found the for sale sign, I stood outside a new house. Smaller. Simpler. Just mine. No ghost in the sheets, no perfume in the air. I had a toolbox in one hand, keys in the other, and a future that finally felt real. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and let the silence greet me like an old friend, not empty, just honest. There were no more surprise letters. No guilt trips. No pretending. Just me, a fresh start, and the kind of peace you only earn by walking through hell without letting it make you bitter. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her to apologize again. I needed this quiet life, this clean slate, this man I fought like hell to become. And as I set down that toolbox on the floor of my new place, I smiled and said out loud, "Welcome home, Caleb." Because I finally was.